Welcome to Amaravati today's daily global roundup. Each day, we bring you a concise and insightful roundup of the latest global developments, ensuring you stay informed and connected to the pulse of the world. US President Biden orders retaliatory strikes in the Middle East after American soldiers killed by drone attack. US President Joe Biden has ordered a military response following the tragic deaths of 3 American soldiers in Jordan by a drone attack carried out by Iranian-backed militant groups. The soldiers' remains were returned to the US on Sunday, and President Biden expressed his condolences to their families. In retaliation, today, U.S. military forces targeted facilities in Iraq and Syria known to be used by the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, IRGC, and affiliated militias for attacks against American troops. President Biden emphasized that the United States does not seek conflict in the Middle East or anywhere else but warned that those who harm Americans will face a response. He stated, "Our response began today. It will continue at times and places of our choosing." The president's message underscores the U.S. commitment to protecting its forces while emphasizing a desire for peace, making it clear that any harm to Americans will be met with a decisive response. Bolivia's foreign minister visits Brazil to strengthen bilateral relations and discuss key agreements. Bolivia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Celinda Soslanda, is currently on a working visit to Brasilia, accompanied by key ministers Franklin Molina and Remy Gonzalez. This visit, her second to Brazil since taking office in November 2023, is significant for bilateral relations between the two nations. Minister Sos and her delegation are scheduled to meet with Brazil's Foreign Affairs Minister, Mauro Vieira, to discuss various topics, including physical integration, fertilizer trade, border cooperation, and energy. Additionally, they will delve into regional and multilateral matters within the framework of organizations like Mercosur and the ACTO. The visit also provides an opportunity to assist ongoing infrastructure projects, notably the Mamoré River Bridge connecting Guajaramirim in Brazil and Guajaramirim in Bolivia. With over 3,400 kilometers of shared land border, Brazil is Bolivia's largest trading partner. In 2022, their bilateral trade amounted to approximately $3.3 billion, with Bolivia being a crucial natural gas supplier to Brazil, contributing significantly to Brazil's energy security. International coalition forms to secure return of illegally deported Ukrainian children. A joint declaration from several states and international organizations, including those who convened in Kyiv on 8 December 2023, expresses deep concern for the Ukrainian children illegally deported by Russia or forcibly transferred within Russian-occupied Ukrainian territories. The declaration refers to a report by the UN Secretary-General, which includes Russia's armed forces and affiliated groups as violators of children's rights during armed conflict. The declaration underscores the importance of prioritizing the best interests of the child and upholding international humanitarian and human rights laws in the context of Russia's aggression against Ukraine. It emphasizes adherence to international law, including the UN Charter, Geneva Conventions, and the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Existing coalition members commit to supporting the return of illegally deported or forcibly transferred Ukrainian children and providing necessary humanitarian, medical, and psychological assistance for their well-being. They also seek justice for those responsible for these actions. The declaration invites other nations and international organizations to join the international coalition for the return of Ukrainian children in supporting these efforts to ensure the safe return and rehabilitation of affected children. U.S. Cyber Commander warns of unprecedented cyber threat from China and U.S. response. In a recent testimony before the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, Army General Paul M. Nakasone, the commander of United States Cyber Command, addressed the pressing cyber threat posed by China. General Nakasone emphasized that this challenge is unprecedented and unique in its scope. Chinese cyber actors have targeted critical U.S. infrastructure, including systems providing water, electricity, and fuel to American citizens, with the intent of gaining leverage during crises or conflicts. To counter this persistent threat, General Nakasone stressed the need for continuous vigilance, both defensively and offensively. He expressed confidence in the capabilities of U.S. cyber warriors, highlighting their effectiveness in defending the nation's infrastructure. Moreover, General Nakasone pointed out that the U.S. possesses its own formidable offensive cyber capabilities, which serve as a deterrent against Chinese cyber aggression. He assured lawmakers that the U.S. will maintain its supremacy in cyberspace, even as he prepares to relinquish his position as the commander of U.S. Cyber Command and director of the National Security Agency. U.S. CENTCOM conducts self-defense strikes against Houthi UAV threat in Yemen. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, forces carried out self-defense strikes in response to an imminent threat posed by Iranian-backed Houthi UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, and a ground control station in Yemen. These UAVs and their control station were located in Houthi-controlled areas, posing a danger to both merchant vessels and U.S. Navy ships operating in the region. To safeguard freedom of navigation and enhance the safety of international waters, U.S. forces took action by destroying the Houthi UAV ground control station along with 10 one-way attack UAVs. This measure aimed to protect U.S. Navy vessels and merchant ships in the area. The strike signifies the U.S.'s commitment to ensuring maritime security and responding decisively to potential threats from Iranian-backed Houthi forces in Yemen. Canada and Ecuador explore high-standard free trade agreement in bilateral meeting. Canada's Minister of Export Promotion, International Trade, and Economic Development, Mary Ng, held a virtual meeting with Ecuador's Minister of Production, Foreign Trade, Investment, and Fisheries, Sonsoles Garcia. This marked their first bilateral meeting, during which Minister Ng congratulated Minister Garcia on her cabinet appointment and expressed Canada's commitment to expanding the growing trade relationship between the two countries. Minister Ng addressed Ecuador's ongoing security crisis and assured Minister Garcia of Canada's full support for Ecuador's efforts to protect its citizens, uphold human rights, and combat organized crime. The ministers discussed the possibility of launching formal negotiations for a comprehensive, high-standard free trade agreement between Canada and Ecuador in the coming months. Minister Ng expressed gratitude for Minister Garcia's invitation to visit Ecuador and expressed interest in future meetings. Additionally, Minister Ng conveyed her support for Minister Garcia's initiatives in strengthening Ecuador's commercial environment, supporting small and medium-sized businesses, and job creation. She also emphasized Canada's interest in responsible mining and critical minerals, highlighting Canada's role as Ecuador's largest foreign investor in this sector. Canada's Prime Minister Trudeau and Jordan's King Abdullah to discuss Gaza crisis and Middle East peace. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau held a conversation with King Abdullah II of Jordan concerning the ongoing situation in the Middle East. Both leaders expressed deep concern for the dire humanitarian conditions in Gaza and emphasized the importance of upholding international humanitarian law, ensuring access to aid in affected areas, and protecting civilians. Prime Minister Trudeau reaffirmed Canada's commitment to providing humanitarian assistance to Palestinians, including a recent announcement of an additional $40 million in funding to address urgent needs arising from the Gaza crisis. Trudeau reiterated Canada's support for a two-state solution and the right of Israelis and Palestinians to live in peace, security, and dignity. The leaders discussed regional security implications, the importance of avoiding escalation, and ongoing efforts for de-escalation. They both voiced support for international efforts to secure a sustainable ceasefire. Trudeau and King Abdullah to pledge to maintain close communication as the situation continues to develop. US launches strikes in Iraq and Syria in response to deadly Jordanian drone attack. US forces conducted a series of strikes against Iran-backed militant groups in Iraq and Syria in response to a deadly drone attack in Jordan that killed 3 US soldiers. These strikes, executed by US Central Command forces, targeted over 85 locations across 7 facilities connected to groups affiliated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force. The targeted facilities included command and control centers, intelligence facilities, and weapons storage facilities used by Iran-backed militias to attack US and coalition forces. President Joe Biden stated that these strikes are the first in a series of actions by the US in response to the Jordan attack and emphasized that the US does not see conflict but will respond to harm against Americans. Secretary of Defense Lloyd J. Austin III echoed this sentiment and revealed that additional actions are planned to hold Iran-backed groups accountable, with their timing and location chosen by the US. The strikes were carried out after the dignified transfer of the 3 soldiers killed in the Jordan attack and targeted facilities selected to avoid civilian casualties based on evidence connecting them to attacks on US personnel. Multiple aircraft, including Biokati Lancers, were involved in the strikes, which were planned in response to the threat posed by Iran-backed militias in the region. Argentina and India pledged to boost bilateral economic ties on 75th diplomatic anniversary. On 1st February, Argentina's Secretary for International Economic Relations, Ambassador Marcelo Saima, held a meeting with India's ambassador to Argentina, Dinesh Bhatia, to discuss and enhance bilateral economic relations. They emphasized the upcoming 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two countries, which will be celebrated this year. Both sides expressed a keen interest in revitalizing their bilateral trade, aiming to reach the historical peak achieved in 2022, with total trade amounting to nearly $6.4 billion and a surplus of $2.7 billion for Argentina. The meeting also highlighted Indian companies' involvement in Argentina's mining sector and their cooperation in space-related matters. Ambassadors Saima and Bhatia agreed to convene the Joint Commission and the Joint Trade Committee in the first half of this year to further strengthen economic ties. Additionally, they discussed the opportunity to reinforce the relationship between Mercosur and India, which signed a preferential trade agreement in 2004 that is in need of an update. Panama and the United States strengthen bilateral security cooperation in 7th High-Level Dialogue. During the 7th High-Level Security Dialogue, Panama and the United States reaffirmed their commitment to enhancing bilateral security cooperation across 4 pillars: border security, citizen security, cyber security, and maritime security. They agreed to establish a working group aimed at enhancing Panamanian law enforcement capabilities in the maritime sector and supporting the creation of a maritime security committee. Additionally, both nations committed to advancing strategic initiatives to bolster Panamanian security institutions through bilateral strategic planning initiatives. A working group will be formed to promote human rights initiatives and facilitate cooperation in combating human trafficking. The dialogue underscored the dedication of Panama and the United States to collaborative efforts that ensure the safety and well-being of their citizens. This reaffirmed commitment is essential in addressing shared security challenges and promoting regional stability. U.S. CENTCOM defends Red Sea, engages threats including UAV, explosive USV, and missiles. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, provided an update on events in the Red Sea involving various incidents. Firstly, at around 5:00 am, Sana time, CENTCOM forces successfully engaged and shot down a UAV over the Gulf of Aden, with no reported injuries or damage. Later that day, around 10:30 am, Sana time, CENTCOM forces conducted strikes and destroyed an Iranian-backed Houthi explosive uncrewed surface vehicle (USV) in the Red Sea. This action was taken as the USV was identified heading toward international shipping lanes, posing an imminent threat to merchant vessels and U.S. Navy ships. The USV was destroyed in self-defense, causing significant secondary explosions, but again, there were no reported injuries or damage. Additionally, at approximately 12:45 p.m. Sana time, two anti-ship ballistic missiles were launched from Houthi-controlled areas in Yemen, potentially targeting the MV Koi in the Red Sea. Thankfully, the missiles impacted in the water, avoiding any harm to the ship or coalition vessels in the area. These actions by US CENTCOM aim to ensure the protection of freedom of navigation and enhance safety in international waters for US Navy and merchant vessels. Thank you for tuning in to Amaravati Today's Daily Global Roundup. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and stay connected with us. Your support means the world, and we look forward to bringing you more engaging content in the days to come. Thank you for being a part of the Amaravati Today community.